Good evening. Welcome to the regular board meeting, the St. Peter School Board, Thursday, January 19th, 2023. We are on a Thursday because of the federal holiday on Monday. St. Peter Community Center Governor's Room, 6:30 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. First thing we'll do is rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reminder that if anyone is here and would wish to speak in front of the board, to please fill out a card in the back and get it to Sarah. First thing we need to do is consider and adopt the agenda, which is attached in the board book packet.
Move to adopt the agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The agenda has been adopted. Don't currently have anyone requesting to speak. We need to move on to the oath of office for re-elected member of the school board, Bill Kaut, who has been serving in a short one-year term and now has been elected to the board. We need to do an oath of office. So, come with me, Bill. All right. So please repeat after me. I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state.
I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state.
And that I will discharge faithfully
And I will discharge faithfully
the duties of the office of school board member
the duties of the office of school board member
of Independent School District number 508
of Independent School District number 508
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we will have Board Member Kaut sign the oath of office form. So thank you and welcome back.
Thank you.
It's like you never left. All right, we need to talk about the consent agenda. We need to approve the consent agenda items as listed in the board packet.
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
Can I just call out one recognition item?
Please, yes.
Kira Wilking is a graduate, mid-year graduate from Rock Bend ALC.
Awesome.
This was for 12 plus years, so
Yeah.
she's stuck with it for the long haul, and so congratulations to her.
Awesome. Kira?
Yeah.
Congrats, Kira. Thank you for calling that out. Any other comments, questions, discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second, so all those in favor of passing, or of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Next up is the student spotlight. Ms. Sikora.
All right, I am so proud to introduce Redwanda Kene to you. He is a senior this year at Rock Bend. And so he was nominated by Mrs. Niemeyer, who is his math teacher and who's also subbing in right now for some ELL work. And she just said he's been working really hard all year. And she was not the first person to say that about Redwan. He's been doing awesome. So he attended St. Peter High School in 9th grade and 10th grade and started at Rock Bend in 11th grade. Because he was behind in some of his credits, a little bit due to COVID, right, wouldn't you say? Mm-hmm. So he has participated in night school and summer school and Rock Bend, and he is officially caught up right now. Nice. So I'm really proud of him for that, and I'm sure you're proud of yourself. Yeah. So he's on track to graduate in the spring of 2023 with his class, and actually one thing that's really cool is he is actually going back to the high school this semester for one class, one elective. That was kind of his goal, was to go back and be with some of his friends. So we're proud of him. I'm going to ask you some questions, but before I do that, can you introduce who you brought today?
I brought my family, and this is my mother, and this is my sister Mumtaz. That's my brother Mahmoud, and that little one is Muhyiddin.
I know some of those guys. All right, so I'm going to ask you some questions. So you have worked really hard to make credits, right? What advice would you give to other students that have credits to make up? What's the best way to do it?
Just show up and do your work, and ask the teachers questions.
Yeah.
So like, what are you missing?
And you've gotten really good at that, advocating, definitely. What's been your favorite class at Rock Bend?
Math.
Math. Okay. So that makes sense that Mrs. Niemeyer nominated you. Very good. As a senior, you maybe hear this a lot. Do you have plans for after graduation?
Yeah.
Okay, want to share them?
First, I want to learn testing and trading,
Okay.
then coding, like computer stuff.
Have you settled on a college plan at all?
Not yet, but I'm about to.
Okay, good, good. All right, the last question, and we talked about this one before you came here tonight, but is there a teacher that you want to recognize for really having a positive impact?
Yes, Mr. Bolom,
Mm-hmm.
Miss Niemeyer,
Yep.
and you.
Oh, he didn't tell me that before. That's so sweet. So again, I'm just really proud of Redwan. He has done everything in his power to graduate this spring, and it is for sure going to happen. So congratulations to you and your family.
Yeah.
So thank you. Does anyone else have questions?
Yeah.
I do. What elective are you going to take when you go back to the high school?
I don't know the name, but it's wild and research,
Yep.
animal.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
With Miss
Excellent.
Lilienthal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Ridwan, what are you most proud of that you've accomplished in all this?
My credits and also GPA.
Awesome.
Okay, that's come up a long way.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congrats.
Great work.
Yeah. And you and your family certainly do not have to stay for the rest of our exciting meeting, so don't worry if you get up and go, you're good. But thank you for being here and congratulations. Yeah. All right, we will move on to our action items for the night. We have a few things to do. The first is consider approval of the 2023-2024 budget timeline.
It's very exciting. You know, each year we are faced with building a budget, and for those of you with lots of experience in education and finance, you know that Tim works magic with about 67 different funding sources that all have different rules and different formulas and different uses, and every year it takes several months to build a budget, and that it's based on enrollment projections, and on legislative years, like this year, there's a lot of estimating, predicting, watching what's going on at the legislature, and reviewing lots of documents and possibilities to build a budget that really depends on the legislative session's end in May, June, sometimes July. And so we will be spending the next several months working on that budget. Attached, you see a budget timeline, and this is really just a guideline. It's a draft. I'm sure it will change based on when we get information, based on when registration gets complete. But this is kind of a rough to-do list, both for staff and for the school board. And so you see in January, it's update on budget planning and legislative action. in February, we'll be digging a little bit deeper into a budgeting planning calendar. Actually, we're kind of covering that this month. And the Finance Committee will begin having more discussions about our projections, about enrollment, and we'll be hopefully having an estimate of our revenues next year and maybe be talking about a possible reduction or addition. I can tell you in the beginning, we're going to be talking about a reduction. And we will have to build our budget conservatively. And then when the legislative session is complete, we may be able to add some back or make some investments based on the legislative session. But we don't want to be prepared, because we've been disappointed before at the end of a session not to either have a resolution or not to have as much as we're hoping. So we need to be prepared in any event. So that conversation will begin in February. By March, we are hoping that we would have a little bit more solid direction and possibly be taking action on any additions and reductions that we need to make based on the budget, so that we can start to notify staff. And then once again in April, the closer we get to June, the closer we will be to a solid budget, and our numbers get more and more accurate as we go, with June being the final, accepting a final budget. And that is our deadline, by June 30th, to have a finalized budget. Although I'm sure you can remember a few years when you probably accepted a budget, but the legislative session didn't end in July, so you had to go back and make amendments. And that's perfectly acceptable as well, because the budget is never truly final. It is a fluid document based on actual expenditures and actual revenues. So what we're asking you for tonight is not to look at this timeline and say, this is what we're going to do, but really just to give Tim and I the direction to begin the budget process, because that is something that we look to the school board for direction for. So this month would be just giving us the direction to begin developing the FY24 budget, and you will be hearing about it every month between now and June. Tim, do you have anything to add to that?
No, you did a good job. There was a little bit from the legislature starting to come out, from the governor actually, so we got a little bit of a framework, but long ways to go.
Yeah, Tim and I had some conversations this week just going over, based on what the governor said at MSBA and what he said at the legislature, we can take our numbers and kind of apply that and have a rough idea of where we might end up if the governor's proposal came true. And then when the House has their bill, we'll do the same with theirs in the Senate. And as we go, we'll hopefully get closer and closer to what will really come to be. This year we're also including a lot of the admin team and the principal team in that process. I've provided the principals with some spreadsheets to start projecting staffing for next year and really looking at where are our needs and how can we best meet those needs.
Thank you. All right. We need a motion.
I move to approve the 2023 to 2024 budget timeline as described.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, questions?
Maybe Bill or Tim, could you provide just a high-level overview of some of the goals that our governor's been kind of laid out and been talking about for us, just to distill it?
You couldn't take too bit. What the governor's first draft was, and Bill, if I get anything wrong, let me know, is like a 4 and a 2 on the formula, 4% increase for next year 24, and then 2% in 25, and then 50%, and that's nice. Actually, for us, probably a bigger dollar amount will be, they proposed a 50% of the cross subsidy for special education to cut that gap, and that'll be significant dollars if that passed for us, because it's a significant cost now. They've got, those are the two big items. They've also proposed the free lunch for everybody.
And breakfast.
What's that?
Breakfast. and
Breakfast, oh,
lunch.
yeah, yeah. And that one, you know, that's a great thing, but they have to figure out the compensatory portion of that, because I shared this with the staff and then Bill, just kind of a trend on our compensatory revenue based upon free and reduced applications. Pre-COVID, we were like 1.1, 1.2 million. We dropped to 900,000 last year, and we're about 700 this year. Next year, we're up to 1.5 because of a couple, you know, we got a lot more free and reduced applications, and they tried some of they changed the Medicaid qualifications and things. So we went from like, I think we're 36, 37% free and reduced, and we dropped down to like 26 or 27, and now we're back up to 44. So, you know, the concern is if they go to the free lunches and they keep that mechanism the same, that will drop way back down again, because it's hard to get the sheets all filled out. So, you know, what we gain kind of in food service, we lose then more in the general fund. There's also some things in there about mental health and counseling services and things like that. I don't know exactly where that's all going to fall out. The synopsis I read wasn't, I don't know the details, or they're still pretty, you know, rough form or overview. Those are probably the big ones for us. A little bit of money for ELL cross subsidy,
Yeah.
so, which will help.
And mental health and early childhood.
Yeah, early childhood. There's a big push for some of those things. There's also a big push that's separate from us for child care credits, tax credits in the proposal. So a lot of younger kid-friendly things, I guess the best way to put it. So.
And if all of those things came to be, we would be far closer to even in our budget and be able to make some investments in some of those specialty areas like early childhood and mental health. So it's going to be a big swing before and after.
Definitely a moving target, or going to be in some, you know, the devil will be in the details, as they always say. You know, they have an outline, but then, you know, like even with the cross subsidy, I haven't read, you know, what year they base that on is going to be important, or if they, you know, put it on that year, because, you know, the special ed cost changes from year to year quite a bit. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Other questions, comments? We have a motion and a second. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We've approved the 2023-2024 budget timeline. Thank you, Bill and Tim. Next up, consider approval of high school course program changes for 2023-2024. Principal Engeldinger.
Yes, good evening,
Good evening.
Board Chair Potts. We
I
have
don't know why
only
that's
two
funny.
changes to the course offerings this year. As those of you who've been here a while know, we have in the past years, especially since moving into the new high school, had a couple pages per year of new course ideas to start you to use that facility to its best. We're now pretty flush with electives. And so in order to know which one of those, to be able to offer the ones, to know we can offer the ones that we want, it's slowed down just a little bit. We've also started, actually thanks to Janice Sikora, we started offering things, you know, like opposite years, so that kids would have the opportunity at some point, and that helps with four-year planning as well. But our two new ones this year, the Phy Ed department is adding a class called Lifetime Activities. For this year anyway, in the book, it would replace team sports. The other one is Dan Clark's Media Productions 3. Mr. Clark actually offers 1 and 2 concurrently, so kids are doing, some year 2 kids are in there with year 1. And there are a couple of kids who are super gung-ho about it and are, potentially looking at this as a career choice. So they're interested in year 3 to develop a portfolio.
All right. So we've got these on the table. We need a motion.
I move to approve the high school course and program changes as described.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, questions?
Did I see somewhere, maybe it was in the policy reviews and so forth, that you're gonna change the graduation requirements?
That is in policy, the policy section.
And how does this impact that? I mean, you're adding a Phi-Ed course, but you're reducing the number of Phi-Ed credits required.
So, I don't know if you want to wait until policy discussion, but I can explain it, and no one understands scheduling like Bill Kaut. So if I mess up, he'll know. So our end game is we want to give kids more choice now that we've got some really great electives. So in order to give kids more choice, we're starting slow with our 9th grade. We're reducing the English 0.5 credit, which has been our 9th grade speech, but that has gone up against scheduling, that's gone up against the 0.5 social studies requirement, the geography class that 9th graders have. You have to have something to go up against that 1 quarter class in order to fill out a student's schedule. So the option was a 0.5 PE credit. That being said, no matter what, everybody's content area is near and dear to their heart. So I understand that there's some pain in the change, but there shouldn't be a change in FTEs. Their class sizes for those 9th grade classes will be lowered because they're matching up against that 0.5 geography class. Is that clear as mud?
Yep.
Okay.
Could you maybe talk just a little bit about creating new electives, right? There has to be a teacher with talent and interest to teach it. There has to be some student interest, but how do those worlds come together? And then you decide where this is what we're teaching.
Yeah, well, it is interesting, especially in those in elective areas. It's really fun, especially in the new space for teachers to really teach to their passions. That being said, like you said, it has to match up with kids, and they vote with what they register for. So that's how we make the decision. We've got all kinds of courses that the board has approved over the years. They don't necessarily go away. They're just offered at different times when the interest is here or there.
They're only offered every other year or once in a cycle.
Correct.
So kids kind of plan out when they want to take that.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that we're talking about right now, lifetime activities, is taking the place of team sports.
Correct.
Replacing it.
Team sports is still an approved course.
Right.
So at some point, they might want to put that back in there, but lifetime activities is a new course.
Other questions, comments?
Sounds great to me.
Right. I just thought of one kind of other interesting thing about that the Phi-Ed electives. Weights and wellness, for example, used to be the most popular elective among specifically our athletes. Now that we've got that new, the new weight room and a morning weightlifting program, and kids are getting their workouts in outside of the school day, and so the offerings have changed that way too, to what you were asking about earlier.
So like this media production, is that considered a fine arts credit, or?
It's not, because the instructor is not a licensed arts teacher. It's just considered an elective. So if a kid wants to go through 3 years of media productions, that's burning up a lot of their elective opportunities, but they're really into it.
I think it's a mix of the course material and the instructor.
For
So,
sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other comments or discussion? We have a motion and a second, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we need to consider approval of the second reading of revisions to the policy manual.
Yes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 policies up for a second reading. The first is employee publications, instructional materials. This is simply replacing policy with a few small changes to include some pieces that weren't in the prior policy of 5.81. Policy 516, the student medication, medical treatment, or procedures. We've had some discussion about that. The revision is to include the use of Narcan in schools and the availability of that at both the middle and high school. Concession stands, there weren't any changes, rather just the changing the policy number. Same is true of the Booster Club policy, 7.713.2. The crisis management policy is also a renumbering and some updated titles in there. The previous policy called out the ALICE program specifically. We still use all of those components, but are no longer associated with the ALICE company, and so we don't call it ALICE anymore. We just call it our crisis response. And then policy 534, unpaid meal changes. That was due to changes from the state and federal government saying that we could no longer provide a replacement meal, but that students would have a regular meal if they had a negative balance. So those are the changes on those policies. We have not received any further revisions on those,
Nope, nothing.
and so they are before you to become official.
All right, we need a motion.
I move to approve the policies that are part of the second reading of revisions to policy manual.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We've approved a second reading of revisions to the policy manual as listed in the agenda. Thank you. That's it for the action items. We now move on to informational items. The first is enrollment options and the yearly comparison report.
Yes, we have made a few changes to this report this year. So if you're somebody who collects them from year to year to compare them, it's a little bit different. We just wanted to clarify by including a little bit more information. So that top graph is the total number of students that are leaving. So in all of those categories, public, charter, online, parochial, homeschool, and then enrollment total, that's the number of students that are leaving the district for each of those years. So this year's 388, which gives us a total of 2,086 students. So that makes 19% of our students, our resident students, are making some other choice other than public school. Now, the next graph is a new square that we've added. This is just comparing public schools. So the number of students leaving St. Peter's schools is 143. The number coming into St. Peter's schools from other school districts is 184. So we actually gained 41 students from surrounding districts. And looking back at the numbers, you know, if we look back to 2018, we were losing 35, and we've slowly been climbing, and now we're at the highest number from other districts that we've been in quite some time. So that's good news. And then leaving for other options is that the box right below that. So not public schools, but charter schools, there are 52, and then 15 students choosing an online school. So that is not a public online, but a separate online school like Minnesota K-12 or Blue Sky or another school like that. So that's a total of 67 of those students. And then homeschool and parochial. So there are 152 students currently going to a parochial or private school, 26 using homeschool this year for a total of 178. You can see it's the same number as last year, a few fewer than the year before, but then you see the jump where COVID began. On the bottom, on the left, is the number of students who are attend MBED from St. Peter's schools. So this is a new box that we've included because the students weren't accounted for in previous reports. So they attend our level 4 programming at MBED. And then St. Peter enrollments for each grade, and that gives you the total of 2,086, the same as above. The next page gives you a snapshot of the students who are leaving St. Peter's schools. That's that same number, 388, that we saw on the previous page. But this tells you exactly what grade and where they're going. So you can see that we have the highest number going to Cleveland Public Schools, 59, Mankato 46, and right on down the line. You can see a New Country School about halfway through. The charter school, that's also 46 students, so that's another big one. But others are 1 or 2, and you can see that some of them are quite some distance away, Brooklyn Center. And to be honest, I'm not even sure where some of these are. But that is a breakdown of that. Box below just shows you the same information from the first page, a breakdown of how many are going to a public school ALC, public school online, charters, other onlines, and parochials. The next page are the students who are coming to St. Peter's schools. So we can see where they're coming from. You can see 61 from Mankato, 40 from Cleveland. So on that previous page where we saw that 59 were going to Cleveland, we have 40 coming from Cleveland. So then you can see the difference is 19. So there are quite a few districts that some of our students go there, some of their students come here, and it's kind of a trade back and forth. And just a reminder that at the end of the day, with all public schools, we end up with 41 more than we have going out. It's surprising sometimes how far students are going. And I assume there's some connection, like parents work there or another family member there. And then the final page is broken down by grade level, by year, for the parochial schools and how many students are going to each of those. And homeschools on here. So as you might imagine, the two largest are John Ireland with 72 students this year and St. Peter Lutheran with 54. and then a smaller number is going to other parochials in Mankato. Questions? Oh, the other thing I was going to mention is I have a meeting next week to go over the results of the demographic study, to finalize that, make sure the assumptions that they're using reflect kind of where we are and our experience, and then that will be, those results will be presented to the board as well, or committee of the board, and then the board for further information.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. All right. Next up, what might be the most disappointing agenda item of the night, the appointments to the standing school board committees, because we are not done with that process yet. So each year we look at the committees that that exist on the for school board directors, and we give out those assignments. We have 5 primary committees, and then there are additional 12 committees, agencies, agency boards that we work with. And I am working to communicate with each board member directly to find out if they have interest in changing or moving from committee to committee, because we have some continuity from last year, of course, with our membership. So I'm going to talk to a couple more of you to make sure I have your preferences, and then we will make those assignments before the next meeting. Sorry to disappoint the audience by not listing off all the committees that each of them are on. Any questions, comments about that? Thanks for your patience.
I have one question. Are we, I think we're missing an informational item, or was that going to next month? Policy 620?
Next month.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
That is all the informational items. So now we will move on to the reports from the building principals.
No Mr. Doherty tonight, so there's room at the table for everyone.
So, new year, back to the old ways, or?
Yes,
Okay.
and without Doherty here, we've got room. And more time.
So settle back.
Sorry.
All right, so we'll start.
You don't want to miss a meeting with this crew.
Yeah, no kidding.
We are a lot of fun. Early childhood, of course, we're starting our second semester. Second semester always brings those same routines back to us. So we have a new session of ECFE, Early Childhood Family Education, beginning. And so there's still room in those classes. If folks are interested, they can call our office. Then we have our school readiness open house coming up on February 16th. So we've got one foot in 2022-23, and we're planning for fall. So we're starting to get families registered for the fall. And again, our open house is February 16th, and we'll be taking registrations. We have our early childhood screening coming up on February 2nd, and that is a full house. We have over 30 little ones under the age of 5 coming in for their screening. And then I know that Mr. Regner mentioned earlier our free and reduced lunch percentages, and during my reports earlier in the year, we were really plugging that, filling out those applications. So just want to thank folks for getting those filled out, and that really did make a difference for us in our school district and will in our funding going forward. So thank you for that.
All right, and at South, we wrapped up the 2022 our fiscal year, calendar year, in a big way. We celebrated the winter solstice, and it was so much fun. One of our goals at South this year is really to be looking for some inclusive celebrations. So what are celebrations that all kids can be taking part in and all families can be involved in? And so the winter solstice fell on the last day of school. There was even a snowstorm to really top off the celebration. So we did have to cut it short and pushed a couple of things to our January schedule, but it was so much fun. We had activities, we had there was a dance party with the glow-in-the-dark necklaces that was going on in the library, so that was a bunch of fun, and exploration in the snow, building just building different crafts, and just that time for kids to collaborate, have fun, and celebrate. Story time going on, so they learned a little bit about what the winter solstice is about, and we already have plans for increasing that next year, so we're adding some more things. Once we came back, we gave them the first week or so back to acclimate back to their classes, and now we started with our FAST assessments, so FAST. We are looking forward to seeing the growth that the students have made and altering any of our instruction based on what we see with that. So that is an assessment that's done 3 times a year district-wide, and we're looking at the areas of reading and math. Parent Council is back up and running, so we meet monthly, and each month we bring in one of our speakers just to help our families learn a little bit more about school, and we really go from what they want to learn about. So last month our speaker was Kari Bly, and she came in and talked about supporting literacy at home, and what are some ways that families can do that. We were supposed to have MSU at our school today, but they are coming next Thursday instead. And they always do a great job of bringing a little theater to our site, and it's entitled Not All Heroes Wear Capes. And I'd like to put a plug in for our rescheduled winter concert, which will be held on December 9th out at the high school. Mrs. Singletary is February 9th. Did I say March? There's some, December. You know, the year changed, the month changed, there's so much going on. I'm teasing. Concert is on February 9th. It was supposed to be in December, so we had to move that. And then we will also be having our kindergarten open house, and that will be on March 9th. So parents will be receiving information. If you would like to go on now and register, that is open. You can go to our district website. Otherwise, we will be sending out information so that parents can come and just really explore, and we'll have staff all over the building. It's a self-guided tour with lots of people around to answer any questions that they may have. And we look forward to meeting lots of new incoming kindergartners.
All right, and the change of this semester at the middle school means we have student teachers in the building, new student teachers. We have 4 this semester. 3 are from Minnesota State University Mankato, and 1 is from Gustavus. 1 will be with Ariana Bealey in art, 1 in special education with Aaron Rolfing, and 2 in ELA, 1 with Betsy Anderson and 1 with Rachel Ryan. So we're super excited to have them around. It's great for our kids to see that model of like, oh my gosh, I could do this someday, and to really try to beef up that candidate pool for the future. Next, 7th grade social studies classes have begun History Day, their History Day project. This year's theme is Frontiers in History. And what's exciting about this year, for the first time, it's a joint effort between our social studies classes and our ELA classes. So the project will focus on reading, writing, research, and presentation. So it should be a really cool project, and I believe Kate's going to help out.
As much as I can.
So pretty cool and exciting there. The Minnesota Student Survey results are now out and readily available on the MDE website. We took that Minnesota Student Survey last spring, but it's taken that long for the interactive website to get ready. And perusing through those, something that's exciting for the middle school outperformed the state in every category except 1 on the section that talks about teacher-student relationships. That's definitely something that we focus on at the middle school, and our students have indicated that we're doing a pretty good job of it. So very exciting there. Nice. And then lastly, tomorrow is our 2nd quarter celebration day, and on our celebration days, we run an early release schedule, and students elect various teacher-led activities at the end of the day. Some of those activities include crafts. We had a yoga session. Some kids are going out to build forts, and 1 group is going to Gustavus to kind of peruse the Arboretum area. So some fun stuff happening tomorrow as well.
I would suggest a dance party. With glow
glow
sticks.
sticks.
In the media center.
All right. With alternative programs, we have some turnover in students at the start of the semester. At Rock Bend, we have our graduate, but we also have some new students. So we're just sort of getting settled back in. But students are really starting to capitalize on our online Edgenuity system for credit recovery. Ridwan knocked out chemistry last quarter, for example, which is, you'd think, a tough class online, but our students are really starting to figure out that if they think back to what they learned the first time they took the course and utilize that learning in their pretest, that they can move through that credit recovery really quickly. So that was really fun to see. Quarter two, our students averaged 2.4 credits for the quarter, which is fantastic. So we just spent Wednesday working through transcripts, how many credits students earned and what that means for their graduation plans, and really thinking about that constantly at Rock Bend. With Hoffman, we have a quarter elective and our teachers rotate through, and so all of our students were really excited to start a new quarter and get a new elective. Our youngest middle schoolers are starting small engines thanks to a curriculum from MVED, so they are probably the most excited crew right now. And then our science classes have shifted from earth science to life science, so our kids are really excited about doing some hands-on activities with some animals this semester. We have snakes coming tomorrow, so I may be at Rock Bend tomorrow. We have our third session of night school starting. Registration is now open, so hopefully the high school students are getting that in the mail and signing up, and our session 3 starts January 30th, so that's exciting too.
Obviously, second semester at the high school started just a couple of days ago. But the registration process for next year, now that we have our courses approved, really kicks into high gear. So it's an exciting time of the year to find out which things are going and which aren't, what kids are interested in. I have 2 students of the month to introduce from December and January, the Bixby twins. Audra and Adriana Bixby. They're both amazing kids, and their contributions in the classroom and on the fields has been really fun to watch over the years. We have some exciting news coming up. I'm sure there'll be an official agreement between the county and the school district, but Nicollet County approached us with they have some additional COVID dollars and additional CD counselor, chemical dependency counselor time with one of their employees. And we have been without for 2 years since Mike McGinnis retired. And it's a huge need at the high school, Rock Bend, even the middle school. So the gentleman, Michael Davis, will be starting at least 1 day a week. Really soon, so we're looking forward to that. And also, our one act play is coming up. The public performance is next Thursday. It's great. If you went to to Shrek this fall, a lot of the same actors are performing in this. It's a comedy. It's pretty child friendly. So they would love to have a big audience next Thursday. And if anybody is wondering what we do on Flex Learning Days, while the principals do have to report, I had an extra duty today. We have a farrowing sow in our greenhouse right now, and so I had to climb on in that pen and feed and water our pet pig today. You never know.
The snakes are.
No, I am not gonna be. I'm not offering to
That
take.
sounds like a best case scenario.
Yeah.
Totally was. It was great.
Yeah.
Yep, happy to help. And that's the exciting news from the high school.
Guess it's my turn. First off, I've been asked to remind you that you have a conflict of interest form that was given to you tonight. If you could sign those indicating that you do not have any conflict of interest, or to list if you do have any business ties to companies that we work with here at the school district. Next, I want to thank our maintenance team. They they have had their share of winter already this year, and I know that conversations today were, where can we put snow? The high school parking lot is getting smaller, and so we're having conversations about maybe asking the city if there's somewhere that we could put some snow, because some of those roadways are getting a little narrow, and I know that, you know, when we get to school, many of our staff have been here for hours, snow blowing, shoveling, salting, plowing, and many nights they're here until midnight, and then they come back. What time do they come back?
Sometimes they come back at midnight. If they're already working till midnight, they'll be back at 6.
Yeah. So when we have those big storms, I know that our staff are working hard, because they're also doing all of their usual taking of the garbage, cleaning our classrooms, making sure our schools are clean. So when it snows a lot, I always feel for them, and feel for myself too, getting up so early, driving around. But you know, it's kind of fun sometimes. As you know, I do regular walkthroughs in all of our buildings and in our classrooms, and this time I was just really excited and wanted to share. It was walkthroughs at the middle school, and you know, we're always looking for high levels of student engagement and things that are really interesting to the students. We're looking for innovative practices, and what we saw at the middle school was a science lesson on phases of the moon, and I kind of split the class into 2 separate pieces, where we learned about phases of the moon, and then went to another room, and they were talking about phases of the moon, but it was connected to our Native American standards and the legends and names and stories that went along with each of the full moons and why it was named that, and a different tribe that it was connected to. And it was such a wonderful connection between our regular curriculum and the Native American standards, and it's great to start seeing those integrated into our everyday teaching. So it was wonderful to see. So thank you to our middle school teachers for working on that. I also wanted to, the topic of meal debt came up tonight, and talked about how many students had qualified for free or reduced price lunch, and we have a higher percentage than we've almost ever had in the district at 44%. However, after 2 years of not having to pay for meal services, this is really a hardship for a lot of families. And we are seeing a rather high amount of lunch debt each month, to the tune of $6,000 to $7,000 a month, that our debt is increasing. And I just want to remind families that we are very open to working with families, figuring out a payment plan, figuring out if you do qualify for free or reduced price lunch, we can help you through that application process or connect you with other services if possible. We'd also like to thank those who have made donations to the school district in the name of some of these school debts. I know some donors have said, we'd like this to go to families at South Elementary or North Elementary, or we'd like these to go to the families with the highest debt. That's been very helpful for many families. Not only is it difficult to have that debt, but the weight of carrying that debt and knowing that it was there is very difficult for our families. So we appreciate those who have helped them out as well. That is it.
All right, thank you. Board members around the table?
Nope.
Nothing? I would say thank you to the district for supporting our development opportunity at MSBA conference last week. It's a big convention in the Twin Cities with all 340 whatever districts represented in some way. Good chance to learn some things, see what other districts are doing. Feel good about ourselves in lots of ways too. But that was a good experience, so thanks to the district for supporting that for us.
I have nothing, other than I miss going to the conference.
We missed you.
Nothing for me?
Nothing from me.
All right, we've got some upcoming meetings of the school board. Study session on Monday, February 6th at the St. Peter Middle School Media Center at 6:30 p.m. And also a quick reminder that our next full board meeting is Thursday, February 23rd. Just wanted to say it because it's a Thursday again because of the holiday. At 6:30 p.m. in this lovely room. And we don't have any other committee meetings in the immediate upcoming future, but we'll get those soon once we get committees set up. So, all right, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
You set a high standard.
Are you collecting these, Sarah?
thank you.
Okay.
Less than an hour.
58 minutes.